Well, welcome in, Braves fans, to another edition of the Chopaholic podcast. It's been a minute, but I'm your host, Bryce Kuhn, alongside my co host, Logan Whaley, where we were just kind of talking a little bit back and forth, Logan, on this Monday morning about what this Braves team is, right? And you and I have been, I don't want to say necessarily like, well, I guess patient is the right word. Like we've been kind of patient with our expectations, and we've also, and I've said this too. Give me to Memorial Day as we record this here on May the 12th. We're 2 weeks out from 2 or 3 weeks out from Memorial Day. We're going to talk a lot about different stuff today, but I think one of the biggest things is Logan is that this past week for the Braves was kind of felt like a microcosm, just maybe a foreshadowing of what this team really is, and maybe we can offer some help to our friends in the Discord to join the Discord with a link down below to talk about Braves baseball and everything else. But this really is a situation of where Atlanta last Sunday, right, salvages a 3-game series with not getting swept against the Dodgers on Sunday Night Baseball. I thought it was a great showcase of some of the young talent that Atlanta has and why you should be excited. They host Cincinnati, who is a pretty good baseball team, really good pitching staff. What the Reds have, and they take 3 out of 4. And then you roll into Pittsburgh, and a lot of people are like, okay, here's where you get over 500. They lose 2 out of 3 on the heels of the Pirates firing Derek Shelton. They didn't face Paul Skeens, which I think if you're not facing Paul Skeens in a 3-game set against the Pirates, you're kind of like, okay, we should win this series. And they don't. So we can really kind of dive in this from a lot of different angles, Logan, but I do think this is kind of what this team is. They're not world beaters through the first month and a half, 2 months of the season. They're not necessarily the juggernauts they were in 2021, and I've got some thoughts on that, or I should say 2023, I guess it was. 2021. I'm just thinking about the golden years, as I think
Glory days.
as Brian Snicker was with Eddie Rosario. But in all seriousness, this is a situation of where we're growing to learn more about the identity of this team, and I think right now you think this team is they're pretty good. They've been playing better baseball after that 0-7 start, but there's holes and there's things that have to be fixed, and those needs I think are becoming a little more apparent as we kind of roll into the summer months.
Yeah, I laugh to keep from crying. Basically, is it's all that's going through my mind as you were talking there. It's been frustrating to say the least, for sure. I think the Pirates series, like, could anything describe Braves baseball better than the way they were walked off last night? I mean,
Just
that was so brutal. Where, I mean, what you had two singles that were under 75 miles per hour, including the game winner, which was just a jam shot,
yeah,
essentially. It was so bad. But that's been the Braves so far this season, where it's like they just keep finding new ways to lose. It feels
yeah.
like it's like they're lethargic for 7 innings out of the game, and then the eighth inning on, they're like, oh yeah, like let's play baseball now. Like our offense has finally arrived. It feels like so. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to say the least.
Let me ask you this because I guess where I wanted to go with this, and I can't remember who was on the call. It was a regional broadcast. It might have been CJ Natowski, or it might have been one of kind of the guest color analysts they bring on. But they were kind of talking about like a lot of people want to go back and look at that 2023 team when they set all these records, right? Like you talk about the home runs. I mean, everything they did, and they get the playoffs and it doesn't work. I think a lot of fans keep waiting for that to happen again, Logan. And I don't know. I just kind of had some just this premonition about it, and kind of hearing some of the broadcasts they're kind of talking about. And I remember now it was the radio broadcast. Charlie Culberson was talking about this. He's been doing some radio for the Braves lately. They're like, folks, first off, that was a record-setting season. There's a reason you call it record-setting in terms of those numbers.
Yeah.
That's really hard to replicate. Like that's why it's a record-setting. You don't do that every single year in and out, and you don't have to be that. And I think that's something offensively is where the frustration factor is. And maybe wanted to ask you like, what are your true expectations of what this lineup should be? Because look, is Matt Olson going to hit 55 home runs and driving 120 every year? No. Is he one of the best first basemen in baseball? Yes, he is. What are your true expectations, and where should we recalibrate this as a fan base? It's not what 23 was, but it also shouldn't be what 24 and the a month or two into the 2025 season feels like it should be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you expected regression after 2023. I don't think anyone looked at 2023 and thought man, like the Braves could easily shatter that the next season because
Yeah.
it graded, and I might be wrong on that because the majority of that lineup, very, very young pieces. You expected them to maybe even take a step up the next year. But again,
Mhm.
that type of success is so hard to replicate on a year-to-year basis. But like you said, you cannot expect seasons like last year and seasons like this year to this point where it just feels like nothing is breaking right. I mean,
Yeah.
I look at Ozzy Albies as an example. Ozzy's been going through just a really, really rough stretch at the dish right now. He's someone you would expect to be playing at a higher level than what he has. Austin
Mhm.
Riley's gone through some funks, but when Austin Riley is playing at his best, he's one of the best third basemen in baseball.
Yeah.
Maybe outside of Jose Ramirez, you would make the argument for Riley as the second best on his
Mhm.
best days. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if this relates to the Braves getting rid of Seitzer. I don't know what this relates to as far as because again, I don't think all of it goes on coaching at the major league level. I
Yeah.
really don't. Like the Pirates, firing Shelton, like you mentioned. I don't know, or even the Rockies firing Bud Black. Like what what coach would you put in that situation
And they
where
succeed. Yeah.
yeah, like I just don't understand that. But the Braves are a unique situation because the pieces are there. And even to start off this season, I know again, two major pieces in the lineup right now are missing with Acuna and with Jerks Profar. What will this team look like when they get back? That's what I'm looking forward to. But the question I have now is, will it be too late?
Mm.
Because the Braves keep, that right now they're just hovering around 500. If they could stay around 500 by the time both of them get back, that's amazing. And hopefully Ronald's not too far off. But
Yeah.
that's the big thing that I'm wondering right now is okay, Ronald comes back. How does this offense look? Which obviously you would hope it's much better, and you hope Ronald doesn't look like he looked before he tore his ACL last year.
Yeah.
Um, and then with Profar, it's you saw glimpses of what he could be in this lineup. I don't know. I just hope that when those two come back, you see a much better Braves offense that hopefully boosts everyone in that lineup. That's what I'm hoping for, at least, and I think that's what every Braves fan is hoping for. But that's the only glimmer of hope I have right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'll just here's a couple things we can lay out by the lineup, and I wanted to say this first. For the people who don't believe that one player can change the lineup, yes, it's 9 full players, but you start to put guys into roles they're supposed to be, right? And I think that's what a guy like Acuna can do. Individually, a healthy top 5 player in the game. Like, that's what he is at his best.
Yeah,
But do we expect that out of him? No, but I think at the very least, if you just get a 75% of what Acuna is at, that's what you can get this season. It helps guys like Riley. It just alleviates the pressure. And CJ Natowski did say this, and also they were talking about this on the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast last Sunday. The thing about the Braves is you don't need all 9 guys playing at an extremely elite level. If you can get 1 or 2, they can carry that. Austin Riley can carry this offense at times. Matt Olson can do it. Ozzy Albies can do it. Right now, it's kind of been Eli White at times, doing that. But in all seriousness, Logan, it's you got to get 1 or 2 guys hot and have those guys alternate throughout the season. I think a lot of people view it as well. If one guy's not batting well, then it's just not good. No, you can have guys scuffle. It's a game of failure. That's what baseball is. And so
yeah,
they just have to get some guys like Michael Harris is an interesting case in terms of what he is. I think it was David O'Brien with the Athletic did a piece or someone kind of laid out a graph on Braves Twitter uh, of really just how he's regressed every single year, like in terms
yeah,
of some stats. And so it really does beg the question of, look, he's an elite defender. Great, you're great speed out there. The hit tool kind of we know what it can be, but it's got to be more consistent. But just in talks about this lineup, you kind of mentioned you don't have a lot of hope. I mean, I'll say this, and I was talking. He co-hosts the Crowded Booth, the college football show with us. Will Manis, he coaches middle school baseball, and he and I've talked about this. If you want to see a two-strike approach, watch Eli White. Like literally, watch how he comes. He comes up to play with 2 strikes, shortens up, hits the ball the other way. In all seriousness, Logan, look, I like what you said about it's not all in coaching. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the past recent days about Brian Snicker and his inability to press the right buttons at times. And I mean, look, you could probably do a whole podcast on just Snicker in general. I tend to agree with you. Like, I think a manager's role at the major league level is more about relationships, locker room chemistry
Mhm.
over the course of 162. It's a grueling season, understanding that you have the right mix of guys and occasionally you have to push the right buttons. But at the end of the day, it's execution. You're only able to play with the cards you're dealt. And I've seen this kind of out there on social media as well, is that a lot of people have said, well, it's the ownerships. They've handicapped AA in terms of what they could spend. And so now you have this situation where you've got guys like Eddie Rosario was just DFA'd. Is Brian Snicker walking into the front office saying, I want to go get Eddie Rosario? I don't think so. I think that he's got more baseball acumen to understand that Eddie Rosario is not that. But I also think when the front office brings a guy like that in, there's an expectation that he's going to serve a role. And so that's why he inserted him into certain spots. So maybe, I know that's a broad kind of question here, but
Yeah.
just your thoughts on Brian Snicker's role in what the Braves are doing right now. Because I just don't think, I think it's just a very nearsighted, and I could be wrong. You have a counterpoint to it. I think it's just very nearsighted just to say, well, Snicker's not good, and that's the reason the Braves are bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the reason the Braves are bad. There are certainly some situations this year where you look and go like, "What is happening?" Because I think there's a situation recently where Alex Verdugo was not ready to enter a game
Yeah.
because Brian Snicker couldn't find him. That was interesting. And it just certain situations, like for whatever reason, the Braves have been more bunt heavy this year than they
Mhm.
have in years past. So I'm like, what has changed about Brian Snicker's philosophy? Because this lineup was, hey, forget the bunt, we're gonna hit dingers, right?
2 years ago, that year we're talking about, they got their first bunt of the second one of the year in the last series of the year.
Right. Like
Yeah.
it was perfect. I am team like never bunt in any
Okay.
situation. Like
Yeah.
that is my philosophy. They are major league hitters. They are paid to hit the ball. They're
Yeah.
not paid to bunt. Now, granted, okay, certain situations, sure, that's fine. But I just there are certain things about Snicker where it's like, what has changed about him, and maybe some of it's age. I don't know. But then there are situations like last night where, I thought, okay, Pirates bring in a lefty. He's pinch hits Drake Baldwin for Sean Murphy with bases loaded. Not only that, Ozuna gets on base in the eighth inning and pinch runs Fairchild, which I know that's been a decision that's been criticized in the past when it comes to pinch running Ozuna for Fairchild because there's a possibility that Ozuna would come up to bat later in the game.
Yeah.
This was a situation I actually liked it because Murphy barrels a ball, gets in the gap, Fairchild scores from first, and I just don't know if Marcell Ozuna would have, and it leads to a tie game.
Well,
So
and
there's
also you can't play for something in the future if you can't get the
yeah,
present.
oh,
And
100%.
so, yeah, no, yeah, I agree.
So that situation I thought was perfect. That was a scenario where it worked out. But I don't know. It's just so unique to me to see just certain situations this year where it's like, okay, you wonder, okay, this has got to be the last year of Brian Snicker because it feels like he's kind of lost something when it comes to how he manages the bullpen, which that's always
Yeah.
been something Braves fans have complained about. You're,
Yeah.
you're truly included. But I don't know. I don't know, Bryce. I just think this feels like his last year of coaching. This feels like
Yeah.
the end, and you certainly want to see like a more inspired effort if it is his last year. I just want him at the All Star break to be like, oh yeah, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm retiring, and then the Braves just to be like, okay, cool. We're just gonna win about 20 in a row now and go on a
And
tear.
look, and give him the full send off too, right? I mean, we've talked a lot about this, Logan. He's done a lot for the Braves, not just in his managerial status, but he's a Braves lifer. Give him that. Allow him to experience, you know, the final couple weekends or the final couple series as he should. I mean, eh, it's ridiculous. People on social media are ridiculous in that aspect. I did want to touch on this though, because so the Snicker thing, I'm with you on that. There are some scenarios where I'm like, you know what? Because look, I don't want to say I'm a Snicker apologist. I just think that the two sides of the aisle that we're sitting on, or that people are deciding to take, okay, with on Brian Snicker are very extreme in their own right. Like there's some people who are like
Sure.
never question leadership ever, which is what it is, and there's other people that just like want him fired, thinking that that would help. Like I think that's a lot of people, and excuse me for the offensive comment I'm going to make here. A lot of people who are highly analytics driven people and maybe view this more as a numbers thing than human element. And the human element is I still think these players like Brian Snitker. Like, I think that plays a very significant role that you have to take into account. I just offended Logan with that highly analytics.
I
You
just come
analytics
out,
people, you numbers people,
just come out and call them nerds, Bryce.
you
Like, it's
nerd, you
okay.
baseball nerds, calm down.
Yes.
Yeah, like
You're like, this is going to be offensive. Some highly analytical, like you were bouncing around that. Just call it.
listen, you nerds, like just calm
Yes,
down and let
that
the
would be.
Braves be the Braves, okay? Stop ruining the game I love. I mean, come on. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do like numbers. I think they have a place. It's much like I talk to people in the college football world, Logan. PFF is not your Bible. Analytics shouldn't be the Bible. It's a tool that you can use and holds a lot of weight, but it can't be everything. You mentioned the bullpen. Is Iglesias washed? Is this over?
He's given up so many home runs, and it's so not like him. I thought, okay, now I know the way the game ended last night. He honestly did not look bad last night. He did not look bad at all. He gave up one hard hit ball, and that was the leadoff single. But he did everything he could to pitch around that.
Yeah.
I don't know what else he could have done. Legitimately, he was executing very well. It's just the results were not there. So, but yeah, I'm very concerned about Iglesias looking at all of his appearances combined, and I definitely think the Braves need to get some help with that position because Craig Kimbrell will not be closing games for us. I refuse to see that ever.
For these guys, for the Clingstone, that's about it. Yeah, that's about it.
Didn't he get walked off by like Eloy Jimenez at some point?
Yeah, because Eloy's in AAA with somebody. Yeah, he did. Shout out to Clingstones. Shout out to Clingstones. Went to a game. Got to watch Blake Burkhalter, former Auburn Tiger, pitch. Columbus can pitch; they cannot hit. So Kevin Kilpatrick did make a really nice grab in center field there as well, and I got to watch some just stud arms out of the Birmingham Barons bullpen and pitching staff over the weekend. No, but to your point, like with Iglesias, my concern is that I think it's you, and maybe tell me if I'm wrong here, Logan, because we'll talk bullpen here for a second. I think you found some middle inning guys, like middle to late inning guys. I think Daysbel Hernandez, okay, scuffled a little bit this weekend. He's been, for the most part, pretty solid. Does not have a high strikeout rate, but induces a lot of weak contact. Hey, Scott Blewett has been really good as an Atlanta Brave.
He has not blown it.
He has not blown it. No, he's been, I mean, very, very good. I was looking at this, his ERA, if you care about that kind of stuff still, you nerds, 2.79 over 19.
ERA is like the basic thing, Bryce. Give us his expected ERA. Give us the expected batting average.
But I'll give you this. He's 19 to 6 in the strikeout to walk ratio. But I thought this was interesting. His percentile ranks on Baseball Savant. So does that help you weirdos? He has a hard hit rate that's in the 32 percentile, one of the lowest in Major League Baseball. So he is inducing weak contact, probably content as well. But in all seriousness, I feel like they found some middle innings guys. Like they found guys that could bridge you. The problem is, they don't have somebody on the back end they can go to that ends the game. Now, I will say that, take that with a grain of salt. There's very few guys that you can hand the ball to in the ninth inning and you don't even worry. Unfortunately, the Dodgers have like 47 of those guys, and that's what sucks. But I think if Atlanta, like you said, can hover around 500, and I kind of say this, if they can keep it within 5 games, either way, like if that's where they sit, 5 games under, 5 games over, within that 10-game kind of stretch there or span, if you can do that, does the front office, does AA, do they really kind of go to ownership and say, look, we have to be a big player on the trade market for whatever back end piece is available at the trade deadline? Because that could be the difference. Atlanta's been 5-0 in extra inning games this year. They're looking to try to get a little bit better. They're not good on the road right now, but at home they're 12-6, I believe, so far this season. So there's things that they have done well. If you could just have a guy on the back end that lights out. I mean, in the month or two, we'll start to kind of look at some different options they could go to. That could change a lot, Logan, because I do like some of the arms they have. And look, when Strider comes back, Grant Holmes has been really good. I think his stuff plays a little bit better in the bullpen than Bryce Elders does. So maybe you do move him to a long relief type of option and piggyback him with some guys. But I don't know. I mean, does the need for a closer, is that just it's weird because you don't go for that unless you think you got a shot to win it all. And I
Sure.
do think Atlanta needs it to figure out if they even do have a shot.
Yeah, and I too. I mean, you look at Raisel Iglesias, and you look at his age. I mean, he's up there. He's 35.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your indicator that the drop off is coming as far as the metrics go, as far as all that goes. So yeah, I wouldn't mind it one bit. Just depends on who you're giving up, because I don't want to give up a lot in exchange for a back end guy, unless that back end guy is going to be your closer for the next 5-6 seasons or so. Then
Yeah.
sure, 100%. But I think Anthopoulos, looking at him historically, he's been someone, especially when he traded for Iglesias, he looked at it. He did not give up a lot to get Raisel Iglesias, because he knew that, okay, the metrics had not been good for Iglesias, the contract was not good, but he believed that things could return to form with him, and for the most part, it did. Um, but that's been the type of trade that's been the philosophy that Anthopoulos historically has gone under, in the sense of he just does not target these high end guys. I mean, Josh Hader was an option in free agency. No shot he was going to go and get
The
him.
one that hurts is Jeff Hoffman. That hurts because he's
Sure.
been really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's still
Sure.
the physical, not on AA. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that was something early in the offseason that he looked at and said, like, Jeff Hoffman was an absolute need. And it's just so interesting to me because they did not try to replace that. Like, they did not try
No.
in free agency at all to get someone who was kind of that, not necessarily top end guy, but definitely a guy who could pitch in the late innings and you wouldn't bat an eye, like Hoffman.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't. It would be nice to go after a closer at the deadline, but I just don't see Anthopoulos, the way that he historically has operated. I just don't see him making a splash in that way.
Well, and two, to your point, you start to kind of look at how the trade market's forming. The American League has kind of been not very great this year. So there's a lot of mediocrity in the American League, telling you a lot of teams think they have a chance to make the playoffs. So maybe they're not willing to deal, maybe they're back end guys. That could be the difference between being, the second or third wild card team and being out of it altogether. Also, you look at the National League, and the only guy that I look at from a list of non-contenders or who I think won't be it is Ryan Helsley out of St. Louis, but they kind of are playing better. So it's one of those things. It's one of those things where I could see this, Logan. I could see, and it's going to drive fans crazy. But remember when Atlanta went and got like Pierce Johnson, like that type of addition of a guy who's pretty good, who's got some good things you like analytically. There you go. From a perspective, maybe the results aren't there. You think you can bring him in house, tweak some of those things, and he becomes maybe a more high leverage reliever. I think like two of those moves will probably be made rather than it just be like, hey, we're going after the big fish to go make this move. And that's how A's dealt, already in terms of that. But no, I'm with you. I mean, the bullpen to me, I thought it was funny. A lot of people complaining about it, and I think it was one of the Braves radio people was like, no, their ERA is like second best in baseball. Like they, for the most part, have been good. It's just the blips here and there, and that's how the bullpen works, right? Like people like to zero in on. And you mentioned it. Iglesias has not looked awful. It just has not worked out. Yeah, and starting pitching. I mean, anything you like on that? I mean, I think Smith Shawver, dude, oh my gosh, some of his stuff is gross. Elder has looked really good, which I will say this. I think it's just for a span. I'm not buying in the stock that Bryce Elder is a permanent member of this rotation. I'm not getting on that train. Okay. I'm gonna wait at the station till the next one comes along. And if we're sitting here in September and he's still really, really good, then maybe we can have the conversation about him being, but I don't think so.
My personal bias has already overtaken me with Bryce
Logan's
Elder.
going to need to see him pitching this well from now until about September of 28 to really buy into him being a permanent member of the rotation.
Look, he could have a Hall of Fame career, and I will still believe the regression is coming.
The regression at some point when he's pitching to his kids, that's when the regression that his stuff just does not play well enough for him to make mistakes, and it's a very
Yeah.
fine line for him. Kind of ending it off with this, Logan. We appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button on the channel, and listening on all those platforms as well. What do we need to see going forward? So Atlanta right now, we've kind of talked about this. The standings in the National League East, as frustrating it has been, you're 4.5 out of the wild card. You're just 6.5 out of the National League East. You got some games coming up here against some National League East teams where you kind of separate yourself from a team like Washington, who, I mean, Washington's lost 5 straight rolling into tonight. Okay, like they've got a lot of young talent, and I've said this repeatedly,
Yeah.
not because of that LSU helmet there behind me with Dylan Cruz. They have some really, really good young talent that is taking a beating right now, but I think could be very good here in maybe 26 or 27.
Yeah.
That being said, you've got a series coming up against Washington here that starts here on Monday evening, and then you go to Boston, who, we'll see what happens there, but look, you get Washington for 4. I think this is you got to win this series. I don't want to say it's must win, but I think you have to win this series against Washington, and then hope you can at least take 1 in Boston, or against Washington. And hope you at least take 1 in Boston, or maybe 2. I mean, just stacking series wins, I think is kind
Yeah.
of the recipe at this point.
I just looked at the probable starters, and I'm not gonna lie. Tomorrow, Tuesday, will definitely bring some tears to the eye for sure.
Well, is it going to bring tear because there's a 7.2 ERA next to that, or is it just?
I'll let you decide.
It's Michael Soroka for those not paying attention. No, I'll give you this real quick. Tonight, it's Jake Irvin and Grant Holmes. Soroka versus Schwellenbach on Tuesday night. Wednesday night, it's Mitchell Parker against Bryce Elder. And then Williams against A.J. Smith-Shawver. Trevor Williams, that is. What that definition of an innings eater there for Washington. So you don't face a guy like Mackenzie Gore. Okay, you're not facing. They have some bats that can do some damage. I don't know, Logan. What do you want to see this week out of Atlanta? Do you just want to see them get over 500? Is that the goal?
Yeah, absolutely. And the Nationals have been scrappy. I mean, even in those losses, there's one game against the Cardinals where they had bases loaded, bottom of the 9th inning against Ryan Helsley that could have gone either way. C.J. Abrams had a shot there, but it was a pretty much a routine fly out there to end the game. But I think the Nationals are a scrappy team for sure, but definitely want to see the Braves get over 500 this week. That would be most ideal. See the offense get going in the early innings. I think that's a big goal because, again, for whatever reason, like you look at the 7 ERA that Soroka has, and he could easily have like a 1 hitter through 6. Like that's just the Braves offense to this point right now. So definitely want to see the Braves offense get things going in early innings. But yeah, over 500 is definitely the big goal, I think, for this week.
Big goal for this week. You talked about that record right there. It's 19-21. Atlanta is. We talked about 6.5 out of the East, 4.5 out of the wild card. Still a lot of baseball left to be played, but I do think as we kind of wrap it up here, I guess I talked a lot about this, and I wanted to kind of get more, maybe your thoughts to round it out. I don't think this team's world beaters. I think we're getting to the point where you have to, and they have. I mean, I'm not trying to tell the front office how to do their job. Your big board's starting to come into shape of what you need. Like if we're going to compete in the postseason this year, we need X, Y, and Z. What would your X, Y, and Z be? I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, I mean, right now the need is corner outfield, but that's something you're going to get when Acuna and Profar come back. So that's not necessarily. But if I want to pull a Chip Carey here, it's like making a trade deadline acquisition without making a trade. Right? Something along those
it's
lines.
exactly. You're right.
But no, that'll be fixed, and then honestly, I think Eli White's shown enough to be a very prominent bench option, which is good. So I think that there are definitely signs of life whenever Acuna and Profar come back. But that being said, Profar's not going to be eligible for the postseason. So getting another corner outfield bat would be amazing because, again, Verdugo has not been good as of late. Eli White even is starting to taper off a little bit. So getting another corner outfield bat for the bench would be great. I think bullpen, getting another option there would be nice. I don't think you're necessarily going to get another starting piece. Obviously Strider will come back.
Yeah,
but I don't know. That'd be nice. Just depth, I think, is the big thing. To pull a Butch Jones term, competitive depth, it would be amazing to have on this team.
For those wondering why he just referenced Butch Jones, I
Covered him
feel
for
you're
a
still a
couple
Tennessee
years.
fan, but you covered Arkansas State there for a couple of years. No, I'm with you. I mean, I think in my order, it would probably be um, I really want to see a back end bullpen piece, maybe two, just to kind of help solidify some things back there. The corner outfield spot would be fine with me. I do think that the outfield market could be thin. A guy that I've liked, honestly, kind of watching a little bit is Dalton Varsho. He's under control for another year or so. Would Toronto be willing to part with him? Versatile, really good defender, too, which would help out there
Yeah.
as well. And then I'll say this, too, kind of on the lines of your starting pitching staff. There's just no one there's no one on the starting rotation where you're like, God, we have to get that guy out of the rotation. Like right now, and I know you're thinking it. I know your regression mean, your law of averages is telling us that's going to be Bryce Elder in a month, but it could be. But you enter Grant Holmes in there, and then you start to scour the market, and you're like, okay, you're really probably going after a back end piece, right? Like you're going after a fourth or
Yeah.
fifth starter.
Yeah.
Is the upgrade with what you would have to give up really better than your 4 and 5 starters right now? And I don't know who that would be. Being realistic, look, everyone wants to go get like Dylan Cease. That's what people wanted that at the beginning of the season, but that's not happening, especially with the way San Diego's playing right now. So that being said, it's going to be interesting, and I would just please beg Braves fans, and you and I texted about this, stop comparing yourself to the Dodgers. It's never going to make sense. Stop doing it. I understand that they're the best team in baseball. That is one of the few things in sports though right now that you're looking at and you're saying you can't compare because it's just such a unique situation. You really, I think at this point, Logan, you can be a good team away from them, and you just have to hope within a 7-game series you can win 4 of those games. Like that. That's really how it has to come down to. I know, like what Atlanta's 1-5 against the Dodgers this year.
Yeah.
That's great. That's fine. You've now ended that series before Memorial Day. So literally, the teams could be vastly different if you play in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting. Atlanta's pushing to get over 500. I think this past weekend was just kind of a disappointing end to what was a really fun week of Braves baseball, getting some close wins, winning the narrow margins, and man, just trying to stay healthy until you can get a guy like Acuna back. But hey, we appreciate you watching, appreciate you tuning in. More consistent content coming here in the near future as Logan and I we get ready for summer break, Logan. For the people we cover. Thank God. There we go. We like it. That's a shout out to the Pope that was just recently elected.
White Sox fan.
That's brutal. God, that's terrible. But yeah, we appreciate you. Hey, make sure you check out our sponsor, Georgia Golf Company. Weather is warming up. I know across the southeast, down here in Louisiana, it's been really hot. Georgia, I'm sure up there in your neck of the woods there, Logan, it's been getting warmer. So great time to get out on the course, especially with Father's Day coming up. Make sure you check out Georgia Golf Company there as well to support not only our show, but support a great brand as well. You can use code TCB15 for 15% off your order today. He is Logan Whaley. My name is Bryce Kuhn, and we will catch you next time here on the Chopaholic podcast.